All right, let's try this again. I just finished Ascension 10 as Necrobinder, and I played about... it took me 15 runs, so I lost 5 runs and won 10. Or I guess won 11, technically, since Ascension 0 counts as 1. And I have a lot of thoughts about it, for sure. But let's jump into the rankings, starting with talking about the starter deck. Because the starter deck for the Necrobinder, in my opinion, is really powerful. So we have 4 strikes, 4 defends. We have Bodyguard and Unleash. So Bodyguard is a 1 energy skill that summons 5. Summon is the reason the Necrobinder's starter deck is really good. Summon is basically just block that has a permanent calipers. It doesn't go away at the end of the turn. It just sticks around. And honestly, it's kind of a problem that if you have Bodyguard and Defend in your hand, you never play Defend. There's never a reason to play Defend over Bodyguard. There's just none whatsoever. And that's a shame. It makes the starter deck, honestly, less interesting, and the strikes and defends are already really boring. And Unleash has the same problem with Strike, where Unleash, the least amount of damage it can deal is 6. Now, I did just notice, let me read Unleash. Unleash for 1 energy is an attack. It says Asti deals 6 damage. And this card deals additional damage equal to Asti's current HP. Upgraded does go up to 9. It's crazy. Unleash is incredible. It does come from Asti, which, what does that mean? It's unintuitive during gameplay because there'll be a number of times where you get weakened or you gain strength, but Asti doesn't gain those effects. So when Asti attacks, Asti isn't affected by those changes, which is really weird, honestly. And I do think it's an interesting change. I just wish the conditions were a little bit clearer. Honestly, just making the icons bigger underneath the HP bar would be a good start. But in general, the status conditions tend to be a little too subtle and easy to miss and can have a lot of consequences, which is not great gameplay. But Bodyguard and Unleash are way too powerful in their current versions. There's no reason to play defense or strikes if you have these. And Bodyguard basically counts as an Iron Wave that the block sticks around, where you gain the 5 summon, and then Unleash deals 5 additional damage because you played it. And if you have any summon left over, that not only does that block stack up over time, but that damage stacks up over time. And Unleash is just so good. You could build your whole strategy just around this, and you will... I got very far. I do think there was a lot of interactions I was able to luck into, and I do think I had a little bit of luck with my success, but I also, when I reached Ascension 10, I did not feel that luck, and I had to work very hard, but I did manage to pull out the win, and a lot of the ideas about summon and just leaning into that very strongly is very helpful. So this is the basis with which we're going to be talking about the Necrobinder, starting with Afterlife. Now, Afterlife is just like Bodyguard, except it gives you 1 more summon and exhausts. It's a 1 energy skill that summons 6 and exhausts. That's it. And this card, actually, I'm going to start naming my rankings here. We're going to call Afterlife Pick on Sight. There's basically no reason not to take an Afterlife, except if there's better cards, but sometimes better cards can have diminishing returns as you take them. And Afterlife doesn't have that problem because it just dumps a handful of summon into your summon pool and then gets out of the way. It exhausts. The upgrade for Afterlife upgrades to 9, which is a lot. It's very impressive. And at that point, Afterlife Plus you are absolutely taking, but you can take every Afterlife you see. I experimented with just taking Afterlife constantly, and it's never a problem. Because the block sticks around. It's basically a power is the way to think about summon. You know, you think about plating, and it gives you block this turn and next turn, but it diminishes. Afterlife, it diminishes when you get hit, but you can build it up so much faster. And I think that's where the balance is kind of struggling with summon right now, is that you can just get so much summon, and it's so valuable right now. So take Afterlife on site. You can take it early because it gives you damage. Because of Unleash, it lets you deal damage as well. Yeah, it's an incredible mechanic that I think is really interesting, and I think it's really fun and can be balanced. Just I think numbers just need to be tweaked a bit, including in the starting deck. Next, we have Blight Strike. It's a common attack for 1 energy that deals 8 damage and then applies Doom equal to damage dealt. Now, Doom is kind of a fun mechanic. It's at the end of these enemies' turn, which is important. The enemy dies if it has at least as much Doom as it does hit points. So it kind of counts hit points, but starting from the other direction. Instead of reducing hit points from max, it counts up from the minimum. And if the minimum reaches the current hit points, the enemy will die, but they get 1 last attack in. And that's the bit where Doom can be a little bit hard to calculate, because one way to read Blight Strike is that it deals 16 damage. 8 from the top and 8 from the bottom. But that 8 from the bottom, as soon as you decide you're relying on Doom, you know the enemy's getting 1 more attack in. You can't kill them before they hit you, which is important. It's an important way to protect yourself sometimes, and you don't have that luxury. That said, that downside is mitigated by playing more Doom cards, because once you play your first Doom card and you've decided that you are invested in taking that extra turn hit, well, the next Doom card you play doesn't add to that problem. You've already committed to that, so now you just want to apply as much Doom as possible just so you can kill them sooner. Even though you're committed to that one last hit, you can still reduce the number of turns by just applying Doom very quickly. And right now, Doom is pretty easy to stockpile. There's a lot of ways to put a lot of Doom on enemies. Like this card, that is a common 1 energy attack that, like I said, you could kind of define as dealing 16 damage. And it's nice the way it's designed, that it doesn't deal 8 and apply 8. It applies equal to the damage, so it is benefiting from strength scaling and vulnerable, which is very nice. It upgrades to dealing 2 additional damage, which makes sense because that's kind of like dealing 4 additional damage. With all that, Blight Strike is pretty easy to rate. You know, there really is a category of cards that are just a strike plus, and Blight Strike fits right into that category. Next, we have Bone Shards. It's an uncommon attack for 1 energy. It says, if Asti is alive, he deals 9 damage to all enemies, and you gain 9 block. And then the saddest 2 words on any card, Asti dies. Tragic. But is it worth it? Bone Shards is a lot of value. 9 damage AoE for 1 is already pretty good. And you defend yourself, you just gain 9 block? That's crazy. That's so much. And it's interesting to note, the Necrobinder, because they summon 1 every turn, they defend for 1 every single turn because they have Asti in play for at least 1 hit point. So Bone Shards blocks for 9, but it also takes away that 1. And it's not a big deal. The 9 is huge, but it's worth noting, like, sometimes the math can catch you that way, especially if you have Asti with any more than 1 hit point. All that said, Bone Shards is as powerful as it looks. If you just take off the text that Asti dies, dealing 9 damage AoE and gaining 9 block is so much to put on a card. And this card, we're going to actually title our second highest tier. This card is an overperformer. Put a little perfect. This card absolutely does exactly as advertised, and that's what you want it to do. It does get worse later in the runs because summon is so good. You don't want Asti to die, so eventually you stop playing it, but you get this early and it just solves so many problems. I mean, it's the equivalent to playing up to 3 or 4 cards all in a single card. 3 or 4 upgraded strikes and defends, basically, mind you, all at the cost of 1 energy and 1 card. Bone Shards is incredible. And on an upgrade, it upgrades to dealing 12 and 12. There's so much value in Bone Shards, so we're going to call that the poster child of overperformers. Borrowed Time. Borrowed Time's a fun card. It's an uncommon skill. For 0 energy, you apply 3 Doom to yourself, and you gain an energy. Applying Doom to yourself is really funny, and I do think that there are cards that count whenever you apply Doom, and this is included in that, so you can get benefit out of that. Although, I believe there's at least one more effect that does give you Doom, and I've definitely nearly killed myself with Doom before. It is a real drawback. That said, the Necrobinder has a lot of access to energy, and unless you really have the type of deck that can afford putting Doom on yourself, needs the energy, can afford spending a skill on this, there's not a lot of places this card can fit, in my opinion. I don't think it's too bad. It's a ritual effect. It's for 0 energy, you gain an energy. It's never been unbelievable in Slay the Spire, especially because it costs a card. But this version of it is interesting, especially with any Doom synergies you can find. You need to find that narrow deck where you need to get that little bit of value from the Doom application, and you need to have something to spend the energy on, obviously. Like, that's the whole reason to play this card. So, given that, we're actually going to name another tier, and this one's going to be Narrow. I don't think this is F tier or bottom tier. I don't think so. It might be close, but I do think you can find a place for this. I'm probably going to change my mind. I might actually... Narrow might not be enough, but we'll see. For now, I don't need to hate on this card too much. I need to remember how much card draw is in Necrobinder, and I don't think there's a lot. Maybe I am down on Borrowed Time. I'm going to leave it in Narrow for now, and maybe we'll come back to it. But until then, let's move on to Berry, as in B-U-R-Y, not the fruit. Berry is an uncommon attack that costs 4 energy and deals 52 damage. I love this card. This design is incredible. I love a bludgeon that's even bigger. However, bludgeon you can play with your starting amount of energy, and Berry requires you have an energy source additional to your starting energy. I said that so terribly. Berry does it's a combo piece. It requires a setup, and that alone really dwindles my interest in playing this card. I love the design. It's really fun. It's a fun card because you can combo it with things like if you get Snecko Eye, or if you can copy it. Like, it's such a valuable thing to copy because of its high cost, but its high cost makes it difficult to fit into most decks. And I think that leaves me... my problem is I never cast Bury. It deals 52 damage. Upgraded, it deals 63. Unbelievable. I never cast a Bury, and I do imagine it's hard to. Because of how good Unleash is, I think big attacks are so easily replaceable. And the fact that this one requires setup, I'm not sold on Bury. I think we're gonna fill out all of our tiers right off the bat here, and we're gonna call Bury. We're gonna call this playing with your food. If you're putting in the effort just to cast a Bury, I think you're just trying to have fun, trying to do different things, which is great. And I think there's a place for cards like this, but not in a lot of winning strategies, unfortunately. All right, next we have Calcify. Calcify is an interesting power. It's an uncommon power. It costs 1 energy. And it says, Osti's attacks deal 4 additional damage. This card is reasonable. It's certainly not the most powerful thing you can do, but there are 0-cost attacks for Osti. There's certainly a strategy within the Necrobinder where you can play multiple attacks from Osti specifically, and this card obviously gets better the more of those you play, and that's definitely a synergy in the Necrobinder. Taking it early is certainly possible. Unleash is a card that is an Osti attack, but if I'm playing Unleash, I'd rather boost the attack by using Summon instead of Calcify, but it is permanent. It's close. This card is close. Because you have an Osti attack in your starting deck, I think it can fit in pretty easily. Dealing 4 at base is tough. Upgraded, it deals 6, which is like, okay, if it's adding 6 to all my Unleashes, I can probably just add this to any deck, and it's really easy to add, and it's just a good strike plus. At 4, it's a okay strike plus, because you need to get more, because you need more value than a strike, and you only get there by playing Unleash twice. So if you have a longer fight, or if you just have one other Osti attack, I mean, that starts adding up a lot more, but it's close. I'm gonna say, I don't think this is narrow, but I do think it is on the low end of strike pluses. So we'll put it to the right of Blight Strike. Next is Capture Spirit. All right, speaking of things that Necrobinder does really well, I'm so surprised that the souls... Oh, sorry, let me read Capture Spirit. So Capture Spirit. It's an uncommon skill for 1 energy. The enemy loses 3 hit points, and you add 3 souls into your draw pile. On the list of things that Necrobinder does really well, these souls cards... A soul is kind of like a token. It's a card you create and add to your deck. It is a 0-cost skill that draws 2 cards and exhausts. Adding 3 souls into your draw pile, if you go through your deck, Capture Spirit basically is like a gain for 1 energy, draw 6 cards. And you draw those cards later when at a point where you get your energy back. And your opponent loses 3 hit points, and those hit points can't be blocked. It's just a loss of health. Capture Spirit puts so much value into your deck. It's insane. For one thing, Summon is a mechanic that I don't think will get changed, but all of its numbers are going to get nerfed. Souls, I believe that souls need to get reduced to drawing a single card. The fact that they draw 2 cards, I can imagine it's more fun that way. And maybe the balance they're trying to get at is they want to add less souls without hindering how many cards you're drawing. Because like one way to rebalance Capture Spirit is to make souls only draw 1 card, but make it add more souls. But then it triggers things that require playing souls more often. And maybe those just need to be debuffed. They've got a lot of work to rebalance the Necrobinder, but in the meantime, Capture Spirit's incredible. I don't know that I would call it pick on sight, but actually I think I'm wrong. You probably should pick it on sight. It's just such a good way to draw cards. Yeah, I talked myself up to picking on sight. When I was looking at the cards earlier, I was imagining Capture Spirit in the second rank, in the second highest rank, but no, I think I'm going to leave it in pick on sight. It's so powerful. And that's just the base version. The upgrade adds 4 souls. It's incredible. Yeah, Capture Spirits and Souls. Souls is a good mechanic. Well, Souls is a powerful mechanic, let's say. Next is Cleanse. Cleanse is an uncommon skill for 1 energy that summons for 3 and exhausts 1 card from your draw pile. Now, this is a nice balanced summon card. 3 is like, 3 doesn't feel like a lot. I have a summon 5 in my starter deck, and sure, exhausting a card from my draw pile can be good and it's helpful, but like, do I want to spend a whole turn on it and get summon 3? And in general, yeah, I think it's pretty good actually to do that combination of things. I do think summon 3, like, if summon gets reworked a lot, Cleanse might not change at all, because 3 is, I mean, 3 is already pretty good because it's block that saves until next turn. And having played with Cleanse a number of times, it actually has a lot more applications than I thought it would. Reducing your deck size, getting rid of curses, getting rid of statuses. One time I pulled a card from the Ironclad and got Howl from Beyond, which was great. Not representative of Cleanse's usual case scenario, but it was a lot of fun. And I've grown to really like Cleanse. It's a perfectly reasonable card. Which, where do you put perfectly reasonable cards? You can put this in any deck. It's not a narrow card for sure. Calling it in the Strike Plus tier is a little weird. And I think calling it an overperformer is a little much. So I think I might just put it on the higher side of Strike Plus. How good do I think Blight Strike is as a Strike Plus? I think it's fine. I'm going to leave Cleanse Plus above it because Cleanse interacts better with most decks and is better late in runs. So I think Cleanse is pretty good. And it upgrades to Summoning for 5. Next, we have Countdown. It's an uncommon power for 1 energy. At the start of your turn, apply 6 Doom to a random enemy. Admittedly, this is a card I used a lot, actually. It's something I don't mind picking up. Again, we can kind of call Doom similar to dealing damage. So deal 6 damage to a random enemy per turn is not insane, but there was enough interactions with Doom that I found this really worth it, where I could just turtle and build up my summon and let Countdown gain me value over time. It was a perfectly reasonable way to do that. It's not the best way to do that, but this feels like a fair card, and I think you can take it. You can take it early. I think it does kind of replace a strike. It has a similar kind of effect. And if you take it late, it's a consistent source of Doom if that's what your deck is looking for. So Countdown is perfectly reasonable. On an upgrade, it upgrades to putting 9, which is a pretty decent upgrade. And yeah, like I alluded to, Countdown really is a version of a Strike Plus, and I would probably take it over Blighted Strike. It asks for a lot less. I don't have to keep playing Blighted Strike. And Necrobinder has a built-in defense mechanic, which Countdown is very good with. Next, Danse Macabre. Danse Macabre. D-A-N-S-E. Danse Macabre is a uncommon power for 1 energy. It says whenever you play a card that costs 2 energy or more, gain 3 block. This is a really nice effect. I had a relic with this effect. I have not played this card, but I really appreciate having an effect that lets me gain block when I play expensive things, because it's harder to block when you play expensive things, and this helps you. It doesn't do much. It's only 3 or 4, but it's not nothing. It's interesting that the Necrobinder seems to have this strategy of, oh yeah, play lots of expensive cards. I find that to be a weird archetype, because if you're playing lots of expensive cards, then you're probably doing pretty well without having a whole archetype that says play lots of expensive cards. It's pretty good to play lots of expensive cards. And the amount of block you're gaining here tells me, oh, you want to like chain your multiple expensive cards together so you can gain like 9 and 12 block, which is, I don't know that's, if I'm playing 4 2 energy cards, like spending 8 energy, I'm hopefully don't need this card at that point. But I don't know how useful it is to play this card. I've never really built that expensive archetype. I don't even really know if it exists, but it seems to be alluded to. But for now, I'm going to call Danse Macabre. I'm going to call it narrow and on the low side of narrow. It's a card that gives you block. It's a card that protects you. I don't think you're just playing with your food if you have this. If you can play it easily, it's obviously a lot better, because you want to get it. You want to get it early, and like, it's weird. It's sort of a setup card. No, but I'm going to leave it here because it does trigger on cards that cost 2, 3, or 4. And if you just get it down, it gives you that block every time. And there are expensive cards that you need to rely on in the Necrobinder. So I'm going to leave it at the bottom of narrow. Next we have Death March. Death March is a fun card. It's an uncommon attack for 1 energy that deals 8 damage and 3 additional damage for each card drawn that you've drawn during your turn. When you upgrade it, it deals a base 9 damage and 4 additional damage for each card drawn. So Death March, get this out of the way, does not count your starting hand, so it does not deal 23 damage without any support. It's your... I don't know how they differentiate that necessarily, but yeah, it does not count your starting hand every turn. But it doesn't have to. This is clearly a payoff for the Souls deck, and this is a cute payoff for the Souls deck because you don't need to play Souls to get more value out of it. You just need to play card draw, and you can play other card draw, which is cool. I think that's a great kind of build-around card. It is just a build-around card. It can deal a lot of damage, and if you're drawing a lot of cards, you know, how necessary is it to have such a specific payoff, like a win condition for it? But I've had this once, and it is really good. It does deal a lot of damage. It can shorten a lot of combats. If you're in that Souls deck, generating a lot of souls and drawing souls into more souls and just building up Death March, you can do that, and it's very powerful. That said, I would not call Death March an overperformer. I think it kind of ends up somewhere just in a solid strike range for me. Honestly, I'm going to put it right below Blight Strike, because Blight Strike, I think, is better early. All right, next, Death's Door. It's an uncommon skill, a lot of uncommons, for 1 energy that gains you 6 block. And it says, if you applied Doom this turn, gain block 2 more times, which is incredible. For 1 energy, you gain block 2 more times. You gain block as described on the card. So without any additional help, you gain 18 block for 1 energy. 18 is such a exaggerated amount. Gain block 2 additional times does not seem necessary. This is so much block, and it's just asking you to apply Doom. You can play Countdown, and Death's Door is just always active as a 1 energy 18 block card. And that's before upgrading it, which, as it should, it only upgrades to add 1 block. So it goes up to 21. But if you can enchant this card to give more block or get dexterity, I mean, Death's Door blocks so much. You do need to have Doom. That's a requirement to turn this on. But it's not that big a deal. It just, you do need it. And without that, it doesn't really do anything. I would not recommend taking this card unless you have a way to turn it on. Which is a really strange place to rank it. It is a narrow card, but it's not that narrow. And even if you don't have Doom, it's not like it's a dead card. It does give you 6 block for 1 energy. It's not good, but like it's not an unplayable card, even in its worst case scenario. So yeah, if you get access to this card, just pick up Doom from somewhere. I mean, really, you have to pick up Countdown. I guess the real limiting factor is you do have to apply Doom the same turn you gain the block, and that's tougher. Yeah, actually, maybe that does make me reduce this card. I think I've only ever played this with Death's Door, and it's so good. But that's 2 uncommons. So I'm going to call Death's Door narrow, but it's going straight to the top. And it's not even that narrow. Like, it really is. Like, it's better than Calcify. It's absolutely better than Calcify. And this can be such an overperformer. This card's tough to rank. I don't know how difficult it is to turn it on. Maybe I'm just maybe my opinion's colored because I've played it with Countdown maybe like twice. I don't know. But it's a defensive strategy you don't even need because you're playing Necrobinder and you can just summon things. Okay, I'm going with my gut. I'm putting it above Calcify and I'm leaving it there at the bottom of Strike Plus. But boy, does this have a big impact sometimes. All right, speaking of big and Doom, Deathbringer is an uncommon skill for 2 energy. There's our 2 cost cards. Apply 21 Doom and 1 weak to all enemies. And it upgrades to applying an additional 5 Doom, but still only 1 weak. Deathbringer is a card I've played a few times and have been very happy with. Again, if we think of Doom as applying damage, 21 to all enemies is a lot. And on these expensive cards, being able to protect you is really important. So I actually really value Deathbringer, especially in the early parts of the game. And then later it can have some synergy with casting 2 cost cards synergies that Necrobinder has, which is really funny. But Deathbringer, again, it's getting a little crowded, but Deathbringer is just a very solid Strike Plus. Probably around Countdown. I'll definitely like it more than Blight Strike. I'm going to put it above Countdown. It's really impactful early. Debilitate. This is a fun card. It's an uncommon attack for 1 energy that deals 7 damage, and then it puts a debuff on the enemy where vulnerable and weak effects are twice as effective against them for 3 turns. And that upgrades to 4 turns, as well as 2 additional damage. But the damage is not why you play this card. The twice as effective vulnerable and weak is a lot. Both for vulnerable and weak. Debilitate is really it's actually surprising how impactful it is on weak creatures, because you can just play this and then reduce the amount of damage they're dealing by so much. And 3 to 4 turns lasts so long. Now, similar to Death's Door, you do need weak and vulnerable. You need to pick up weak and vulnerable effects to use this at all. But without that, at a base, it is dealing 7 damage, which is, again, bad, but not unplayable. So where does that leave Debilitate? Probably in a similar area as Death's Door. But I think I like Debilitate more than Death's Door because it can help you offensively or defensively. And I'm going to put it right below Countdown. I think I like that. Next is Defile. It's a common attack for 1 energy. It has Ethereal and deals 13 damage and 17 when upgraded. Defile's just, as advertised, a really good attack card. I mean, this is as quintessential a Strike Plus card as there is. I'm very happy seeing this early. It's a lot of damage, and it's got some nice ethereal synergies. And later in the run, when you don't want to be playing just a good strike, it exhausts itself. Defile's a perfect card, and honestly, is going straight to the top of Strike Plus for me. Not much to say about Defile. It's very simple. It's very good. Defy is a common skill for 1 energy. It has Ethereal. It gains 6 block and applies 1 weak. When upgraded, it gains 7 block and applies 2 weak. I don't really know why, but I find Defy to be incredible. I always want to add this card to my deck, and I kind of want to keep adding multiple copies to my deck. The weak is so important. The ethereal synergies are fine. Getting Debilitate to make this more potent is something I've done multiple times. It's a common, so it's easy to pick up. And because it has ethereal, I don't really mind picking up multiple copies. This card, surprisingly, really does end up being a card that I pick on sight. It's really good. It's pretty unassuming of a card, but the weak ends up being a really important part of my blocking strategy. That plus summon and just whatever little block you can gain. Or a Calcum is a great relic with Necrobinder because you can invest your blocking strategy into summon, and Orichalcum is still active. Defy is similar, where you can apply weak, and, well, it puts block, so it doesn't make Orichalcum active. But it's still a good angle to protect yourself on, especially when things like Debilitate exist. So, Defy is really valuable. Big fan. Next, we have Delay. It's an uncommon skill for 2 energy. It gains 11 block, and the following turn gives you 1 energy. When upgraded, it gains 13 block and gives you 2 energy. Delay is admittedly a card I've never played, but I get it. It's just not the best way to protect yourself. I would much rather be spending my energy on summon. But giving you energy is nice. Again, this is a card that feels like it's fitting into this play expensive card strategy. I see that. It's never a thing I've built a deck around, but clearly there's pieces to it here. The block is the amount of block is not terribly impressive to me. 5.5 block per energy is pretty underwhelming, and gaining the energy, it's good. Like, it's good, absolutely. It's just not really how I want to be spending 2 energy in any turn, especially when I think there's better ways to protect yourself. So Delay, while not unplayable, is going to go into the narrow category, but it'll go towards the top. I think it goes towards the top because it can be added to any deck and be valuable. It's not actually narrow, but it's narrow in how effective it is. Next, we have Dirge. Spoilers, I like Dirge. It's an uncommon skill that costs X. You summon 3 X times and add X souls into your draw pile. I don't know if I've gotten lucky or whatever it is, but I've found so many different synergies with this. You can invest a lot of energy. If you can play this for free, if you can like get Chemical X, I really like Dirge. And it seems pretty unassuming, but then you realize for 2 energy, you get 6 summon and you get 2 souls, which is draw 4. Basically, if you ever have a turn off from getting attacked and you can just invest a lot of energy into this, do it. And then suddenly your combat goes much, much smoother. And it only gets better from there. It upgrades. The upgrade's interesting. The summon, it doesn't X+1, but it summons for 4 X times and then adds soul pluses. And if souls are really good, soul pluses are insane. Drawing 3 cards is excessive. But Dirge is a great card. I wouldn't pick it on sight, but it is absolutely an overperformer. I'm going to put it below Bone Shards because Bone Shards can go anywhere. Dirge can go anywhere too, but it does ask for a little. It does ask to be set up, and Bone Shards is just asking to be played early. Next is Drain Power. It's a common attack for 1 energy that deals 10. It's pretty good. And then it upgrades 2 random cards in your discard pile. What a weird effect. Basically, this card is designed just to be a good early card when you have very few upgrades and dealing 10 damage for 1 is impactful. And that's about all it is. Upgrading 2 random cards in your discard pile, notably, it only upgrades them for the combat, in case that's not clear. But that's still pretty good. Even just giving your defense a 3 additional block is pretty good, especially in the early part of the game. So this is just an overperforming Strike Plus for sure. I still like Defile more for the amount of damage it does, but Drain Power is a good Strike Plus. Next is Dredge. It's an uncommon skill for 1 energy. Put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand and then exhaust. You know, I've never actually played this card, but I've wanted to. Ooh, the upgrade is to Retain. I didn't know that. I assumed it would have just given you more, but Retain is way better. Retain is very powerful. There's a lot of cards that retain in Slay the Spire too. Certainly noticeable. The problem with Dredge is that all it does is give you 3 cards. Souls are often incidentally on cards that do other things. So I'm never really at a point where I just want to invest a whole card into just this one effect. I'm never upset having it, but I'm never excited to see or take Dredge. It's fine. It's a draw 3 for once usually, and it draws a specific 3 cards. But it exhausts. You can only do it the one time, so it's not going to break your deck. All of that said, Dredge ends up just being of narrow use and value. I wouldn't take it over any of these Strike Pluses for sure. It's more valuable than these later, but Necrobinder has so much going for it that Dredge is never going to push your deck over the edge at any point. It'll help, for sure. It'll help basically any turn you can play it in the later part of a run, but all of that's too narrow for me. That's Dredge. Enfeebling Touch. It's an uncommon skill for 1 energy. I'm surprised this is uncommon. I feel like I've seen this a lot. It has Ethereal, and the enemy loses 8 strength this turn. When upgraded, they lose 11. Enfeebling Touch is really good. It's very simple. Doesn't ask for a lot. This having Ethereal is tougher because sometimes you want to keep this in your deck, but the enemy isn't attacking, so you might want to waste an energy just to keep it in your card pool. But this is a really powerful effect. Again, it's another angle to protect yourself besides block, summon, and weak. Reducing strength is really good against certain enemies' attacks, and that's important. So, honestly, Enfeebling Touch ends up being, for me, an overperformer. On the bottom side of being an overperformer, but an overperformer for sure. Fear. Fear is a common attack for 1 energy. It has Ethereal, deals 7 damage, and applies 1 vulnerable. So this is kind of the inverse of Defy, but it's one of the few sources of vulnerable, which is really important. However, the unupgraded version applies 1 vulnerable, and the upgraded applies 2. It also deals 8 damage, but that's not why you upgrade it. It's really important to upgrade Fear to get that second vulnerable, because without it, it's really tough to get value on this card. This card also having Ethereal is brutal because it's really pushing you to, like, you want to, God, here's the problem. So here's the problem with Fear. Having Ethereal and apply 1 vulnerable is so taxing because you want to set this up for the turn where you can take advantage of that 1 vulnerable. But if you draw it too early, you still need to play this just so you don't lose it. And 1 vulnerable is a lot, especially with Debilitate. But if that's your plan, you need Fear Plus. Debilitate lasts 3 turns. That's fine. But you need Fear Plus to be able to time Fear with Debilitate and a reasonable attack. Because if you are playing Debilitate and Fear on the same turn, you've already wasted 2 energy. And that's not where you want to be trying to combo with Vulnerable. So Fear is a strange card. I do like it. I only like having 1 copy, and I only really like having it upgraded. But when you have that, it's good. I think that makes it sound like a narrow card. But again, I'm putting it at the top of narrow. Its worst case is that it's an iffy strike. It's not much better than a strike. It could arguably go at the bottom of Strike Plus, but I think with the Ethereal, it's hard to play this card. So, into narrow it goes. Fetch. Fetch is an uncommon attack that costs 0 and has Asti deal 3 damage. And then, if it's the first time the card was played in the turn, you draw a card. So this is preventing you from, quote-unquote, going off in a single turn with Fetch. You can only ever draw 1 card per turn with Fetch. It upgrades to dealing 6 damage, which is twice as much, is fine. This card's pretty unimpactful. It's hard to dislike. It costs nothing. It costs you 0 energy, and it replaces itself. If you're not doing anything broken, it's just a free 3 damage from Asti, usually, if you can play it. Which Asti, you can usually play it while Asti's alive. That I don't even know if it's possible to get into a situation where you can't play it. Unless you're like sacrificing Asti to draw cards, which again is also something I don't even think is possible. So it's just fine. You really want to... I don't even add this to my deck because sometimes there are effects you want to avoid where you can only play a certain number of cards per turn, or the enemy has consequences for attacking them. And that's enough for me to not play this. This very much, to me, sounds like a narrow card. I'll put it above Delay because it's really, it asks for the least amount possible, but its impact is so minimal. Flatten, another Asti attack. It's a common for 2 energy, and Asti deals 12 damage, and this card costs 0 if Asti already attacked. So this card goes really well with Fetch. And actually, this is an Asti attack I've really liked, especially because it combos with the Asti attack in your starting deck. It combos better with 0 cost things, because then you can play this, play another 0 cost attack, and still have 3 energy left over. Costing 2 is a big ask. But Flatten's pretty good. It's very easy to make it cost 0. It doesn't do much more than that, and I don't think it's the most powerful Necrobinder strategy to deal damage, but it's perfectly reasonable. It upgrades to dealing 16 damage also. What was that card in the Silent called? There was a card that had those same exact numbers and the same exact effect, except it checked for if you discarded a card this turn. This is the same exact thing, so the numbers are certainly correct, if not very close. This card's definitely not an overperformer, and it's definitely better than a strike. So we're going to put this... Is it better than Defile? That's interesting. That's close. I think I like Defile more, but I'm going to put it right below Defile. Next is Friendship. Is an uncommon power for 1 energy. Lose 2 strength. Okay. Then gain an energy at the start of each turn. When upgraded, you only lose 1 strength. What an interesting card. Friendship is funny because the energy is obviously so valuable. How bad is it to lose strength? Sometimes it's really bad. I've definitely had decks where I really, really did not want to lose strength. But for the most part, you have strategies that either rely on really big attacks, so the strength mitigation is less noticeable, or you have strategies where Asti is attacking, and those attacks are unaffected by you losing strength. More importantly, gaining an energy at the start of each turn, and it's a 1-cost power? Yeah, I'll lose 2 strength for that effect, usually. There are rare times, rare decks that I really don't want this in, but it's such a low cost to gain, to have 4 energy or more per turn. So Friendship's really good. I'm sure people pick this on site. I have no doubt. I don't know that I need to pick this on site. Yeah, I don't pick this on site. That's just the fact of the matter. So I'm going to put it at the top of Overperformer. But it's very good. No doubt about that. Next is Grave Warden. Common skill for 1 energy. All it does is gain 8 block and put a soul in your draw pile. And when upgraded, it only gives you 2 more block, but it's a soul plus. I think it's just because 8 block feels like so much. But also, sometimes I play this card just to put a soul in my deck. Sometimes I don't need the block, but I'm like, well, I have the extra energy. Time to put a soul in my deck. Grave Warden, I mean, this is going to be funny. Grave Warden has been really important in my decks. And I very often pick it on site, and I think I do like it more than Defy. I think that is true. Because it doesn't have Ethereal. It's not asking for any favors. And it even gives me something to do when I have the extra energy. So it's a little bit less of a barrier than Defy is. So I think I will say I like it more than Defy. Liking it more than Consume Spirit? You know, I am going to say I like it more than Consume Spirit. I can put Grave Warden in more decks. Grave Warden is just a great block card. And I've been very happy with multiple copies. I gravitate very strongly to Grave Warden. 8 block, it's not usually a lot for 1 energy, but souls are so good. And it just works. It's the block plus the summon. Like, summon's the primary way I want to be protecting myself. And I just need enough block to mitigate how much summon I'm losing. That's it. So Grave Warden's great. Highly recommended. Next is Graveblast. It's a common attack for 1 energy that deals 4 damage and puts a card from your discard pile into your hand and then exhausts. And when you upgrade it, it deals 6 damage and does not exhaust. So Graveblast is a weird card to me because I have never been interested in taking this card. Just personally, it's not for me. I don't want to spend an energy. 4 damage could basically be 0. I don't want to spend 1 energy. I don't want to spend 1 energy getting 3 cards back from my discard pile, let alone 1. I'm already not playing Dredge. Why would I want to play Graveblast? Well, it turns out I did have a run where I had this card called Hang, which I think people are familiar with, is a rare that puts a debuff on the enemy that doubles the amount of damage Hang cards do. So I ended up Graveblasting Hang a lot, and that was one of the best decks I've ever had. But I'm not going to rate this card based on its good interaction with the 1 rare. I think there are other cards it would be good with. I think it is important that it's an attack. Occasionally it matters, not often. And honestly, the only instance I can think of is Test Subject that punishes you for playing skills. Otherwise, there's probably more punishments for playing attacks, like the B elite that puts dazes in your deck when you hit it. I don't like Graveblast. You know what? Honestly, if you're getting value out of Graveblast. I think you're really playing with your food. I think that's what that is. It's just so minimal. And yeah, you can get a card back from your discard pile, but you have to do nothing to do so. And I don't want to do it. Because sometimes you have nothing in your discard pile, and then it's a really bad card. And then it loses exhaust when you upgrade it. I don't want this in my deck. I don't want it to stick around. So I don't like Graveblast. I've used it very effectively, but I think that's really the exception. So those are my thoughts on Graveblast. Haunt. It's an uncommon power for 1 energy. Whenever you play a soul, a random enemy loses 6 hit points. Kind of like Death March. This is a payoff for the soul deck, a damage payoff. Death March doesn't require souls. This one does. But I do like this. I have taken this very aggressively. Probably because I'm playing a million Grave Wardens in my deck. But I like that loop of being able to play a power that deals damage, and then I just protect myself and draw cards, and protect myself and draw cards. And as I'm doing that, I'm just dealing incidental damage to my opponent. I think it's a really effective strategy, and Haunt is really good at enabling that. And then Haunt's really good with other things that put souls in your deck. I don't know. I think Haunt is just an overperformer. I think it's narrow, but I think it's a really good payoff. It just sits in your deck and lets you protect yourself while killing your opponent. I think it's really good. Yeah, I think it's better than a Strike Plus. So because souls draw 2 cards, you play souls and you draw more souls, and then you draw more things that play souls. It's such a powerful mechanic right now. The Necrobinder is so good. So that's Haunt. High Five, uncommon attack for 2 energy. I love this artwork. Asti deals 11 damage and applies 2 vulnerable to all enemies. So this is an Asti AoE attack. Honestly, I've never played this card. 11 damage isn't impressive to me when things like Deathbringer exists, and that protects me. Vulnerable's good, don't get me wrong, but it is only 2 vulnerable. It does at least put 3 vulnerable on upgrade. That's nice. Upgrade is 13 damage and 3 vulnerable. But 11 damage AoE? This is a lot of energy to not protect myself. I'm not going to lie. There's not a lot of decks I can fit this into. If I got it really early, I would probably take it. But does it replace a strike for me? It must, right? It does apply 2 vulnerable. Which means I can use it next turn. Yeah, I've never played this card, but I think I would if I had a chance to play it early. So I'm going to call this a Strike Plus, but not great. Put it towards the bottom of Strike Plus, with room to interested in trying this more later. But once you get out of the later part of the game, you don't want to spend 2 energy just to start putting vulnerable on things. I don't think that's the rate you're looking for. So High Five's not going to do it for me, although I wish it would. Next is Invoke. It's a common skill for 1 energy, which only gives you, on the following turn, summon 2 and gain 2 energy. Upgraded, it gives you summon 3 and gain 3 energy. I don't want to waste too much time talking about Invoke because I've never cast it, and I don't think it's that good. Because it summons, I'm going to put it above Berry, but even then, Summon 2 is very small. Summon 2 is probably closer to what it should be, but it's too little for me to be interested in it. And again, I'm not really looking for that energy. It's not really been a choke point for me. Maybe because I'm picking Friendships, and Friendship's a way better card. And if I don't have Friendship, then I'll just make do with 3 energy. That's fine. Yeah, Invoke doesn't do it for me. 2 energy feels like you want me to play this for the energy, not the summon. And having both is important, but it's too low of an impact. I've never been interested in playing it, but maybe I should try it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can prove myself otherwise. But Until then, I have to talk about Lethality. Lethality is an uncommon power that costs 1. It has Ethereal, and the first attack each turn, your first attack each turn, no, the first, important, sorry, it's important to note, it doesn't matter if it's you or Asti, the first attack on each of your turns deals 50% additional damage, and upgraded deals 75% additional damage. Boy, howdy. Lethality is really, really good. I think I pick it on sight because I learned something too. If you have multiple copies of Lethality, I got posed this question: what happens? How does it stack? And I knew it would either, well, just add the percentages together, or make it on the first and then the second or third attack, whatever. But no, it adds the percentages together, which really ends up being the right choice as far as how to scale this card powerfully. Because 50 is pretty good. 75 is a lot. I hardly notice this card has Ethereal because I just jammed this card as soon as I have it. And multiple copies of this card gets better. Yeah, I think I like Lethality. I'm going to put it above Consume Spirit because I haven't played Consume Spirit a lot. Lethality is just a card that goes with any offensive strategy. It's so powerful because you can combine it with Vulnerable. And there's some cards later we'll get to that I find really important to the Necrobinder. So Lethality is incredible. Highly recommended. Melancholy. It's an uncommon skill that costs 3 energy, but it gains 13 block, and its cost is reduced by an energy whenever anyone dies. So the anyone is really referring to Asti, but it's nice that it gets better in multi-enemy encounters. That's nice. That said, by the time I want a big block card like this, I've reached a point where I've invested too much in summon, and I don't want to kill off Asti, and this is too expensive for me to play. Is it playing with your food? No, I don't think it is. It's just that summon is too powerful, and this is too narrow right now. That's just true. It's almost playing with your food, but it's just in the wrong metagame right now. Once things get rebalanced, I can imagine, like, once you're more incentivized to have a loop where you're killing Asti frequently, like, I think that could be interesting. Where maybe you can kill Asti multiple times in a single turn by sacrificing him, summoning him, and sacrificing him again. And I think that would be really interesting, but that's just not there right now. Keeping him alive is way, way too valuable. I don't think it's impossible, but I'm going to drop this. Man, I know I need to put it at the bottom. I'm not playing this card. It's just so poorly positioned. I'm not going to play this card. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, it has a good effect, but it's not worth it. Sorry, Melancholy. I don't have a home for you anywhere right now, but I believe I will one day. That's where I'm at. Next, Negative Pulse. This is an interesting card. It's a common skill for 1 energy that gives you 5 block and applies 7 doom to all enemies. When upgraded, it gives you 6 block and 11 doom. I had a deck. I did win the run, but I had a deck where I saw Negative Pulse and I kept taking it. I took every copy I saw. And I did win, but I don't think that's a good strategy. I think 5 block is too little, and the 7 doom is really only good in multi-enemy encounters. And if you just have 1 enemy, it's only 5 block and relatively small amount of doom. So I don't think the card's that bad. It's fine. It's just very low impact. It's not a good strike. It's not a strike plus. It's a bad strike. It's not the worst strike. It's an okay strike. It's not. It's going in narrow. That's what I'm saying. I'm putting it in the narrow tier, and I have nothing left to say about this card. But it's a fine narrow card. Well, it's the middle of the pack narrow card. Okay, next. No Escape. Uncommon skill for 1 energy. Apply 10 Doom plus an additional 5 Doom for every 10 Doom already on this enemy. Well, this is about as narrow as it gets. If you aren't playing a Doom deck, it's not worth playing. If you are, it's really good. Okay, so how's this math work? So if you take this instead of a strike, it puts 10 Doom on the enemy. And then, next time you draw it, it puts 15 Doom, because they already have 10 Doom. So it's kind of like Rampage and the Ironclad in that way. I guess, yeah, that's fine. What does it upgrade to? It applies 15 Doom the first time, so... Okay, so you still only get 5 additional Doom on the second cast. But on the third cast, you get 15 additional Doom. Really, you need to combo this with other cards that apply Doom. That's really where the payoff is. And then it pays off very quickly. It's not narrow, I guess. I think you can take this if you don't have any other options in place of a good strike card. Yeah, we're going to put this somewhere in the middle of strike pluses. I will put it above Death March. I think it's a good payoff for Doom, and it's probably better as a strike replacement than Death March. I think that's true. I think. I'm not 100% sold, but it's about where it is. Next is Pagestorm, an uncommon power for 1 energy. Whenever you draw an ethereal card, draw a card. And it upgrades to costing 0. Sure, that's fine. I've never played this card, but it's not bad. It really needs you to have a bunch of ethereal cards, which is weird because ethereal cards have a tendency to disappear on you. But you can draw multiple cards per turn with this. I think this is weird synergy with ethereal cards, because if you're drawing more cards, because if you have a bunch of ethereal cards in your deck, then you're drawing more cards, and then you're drawing more ethereal cards, and you need to play them or else they disappear, and then you're drawing less cards. I've never built such a ethereal focused deck. I've definitely had ethereal synergies, but never one that I felt like, oh, I could really use this. So I don't think this is too bad, but I'm definitely going to call it narrow. I'm gonna put it towards the bottom of narrow. I'm not super impressed with Pagestorm. I think it can be potent, but the synergy I feel like is awkward, and it is not the most powerful thing you can be doing. It doesn't ask for a lot. It just asks you to draw them. No, that asks for a lot because you need to have the ethereal cards in your deck, and there are synergies with ethereal that let you make cards ethereal, and this doesn't work with those unless you make them ethereal, cast them, and then redraw them. Yeah, the synergy's just in the wrong places for me. I'm not into this, but it'll certainly give you value eventually. Next is Parse. Parse is kind of a weird card for some reason. It's an uncommon skill for 1 energy that has ethereal and draws 3 cards. When upgraded, it draws 4. This card reads to me as, oh, we just need to fill some slots in the Necrobinder with cards that have ethereal. So we're going to get some really generic effect and then slap ethereal onto it. Because upgrading this to draw 4 cards is pretty pungent. But overall, I'm not terribly impressed with Parse. It's fine. You can play it in any deck, which is good. But it definitely doesn't overperform. But it's not narrow, so it awkwardly ends up in the Strike Plus camp, which I don't regret. I think I'm okay with that. But I'm going to be honest, I'm going to put it at the bottom of Strike Pluses. I'm clearly just not building the draw cards and have energy deck. But, you know, when your draw 3 has ethereal and is an uncommon, what am I supposed to do? Poke. Not much to say about Poke. It's Slice. It's a 0 cost attack that has Asti deal 6 damage and 9 when upgraded. It's a good first pick. It's a good very early card. It's a good strike. But that it really is nothing besides that. And, you know, it has some synergies with Asti here and there, but that's nothing to, like, be too excited about. It's fine. I'm going to put it right above high 5, and that's it. Okay, this is a card I'm excited to talk about. Pull Aggro, common skill for 2 energy. It summons 4 and gains 7 block. When you upgrade it, it summons 5 and gains 9 block. So it doesn't upgrade by giving 2 and 2. It only gives a summon 5. The reason I'm interested in this card is because this feels like a card in the next patch. Summon feels so powerful right now that summon 4 and 7 block for 2 energy feels like where the balance should be, but is not overall. So Pull Aggro, compared to every other card in the card pool for Necrobinder, is too weak. It is underpowered compared to the rest of the field. But Necrobinder is overpowered, so Pull Aggro is actually closer to where it should be. And again, it feels like a card in the next patch because I kind of think Pull Aggro was designed. I think it started out as summon 5, block 5. But then you realize summon's too powerful, so you knock it back 1, but you give it 2 more block to make up for it. That kind of makes sense. But honestly, if this was summon 5, block 5, I might be playing it. As it turns out, I'm not playing this card now. A lot of things need to be rebalanced for Necrobinder. Pull Aggro is not one of them. Summon 4 for 2 energy, yeah, that's a steep cost, and that's closer to what it should be, but I would rather take anything else in the Necrobinder. That said, upgraded, I've played and is okay. Like, that's worth playing for 2 energy, but not unupgraded. I will actively avoid this card. This is going above Melancholy. Poor Melancholy. I thought I liked Melancholy. I was wrong. Pull from Below, an uncommon attack for 1 energy. Deal 5 damage for each ethereal card played this combat. Interesting. I don't actually recognize this card. It has, counting the number of ethereal cards you've played this combat, is an effect on a rare, and that rare is S tier. But this is fine. I've not seen this card. I don't have a good sense of how easy it is to make effective. It doesn't seem hard. I think my biggest fear with this card, so when upgraded to deal 7, my biggest fear with this card is that it does nothing until you've played your first ethereal card, at which point it deals 5 damage. That's my least favorite thing about this card. And I don't know if that makes me put it into the narrow tier, because your starting deck starts with no ethereal cards. I haven't played this card, so it's hard for me to imagine, but I'm going to say, just for dealing damage for playing ethereal cards, I don't think is the best version of a payoff. The rare I'm referring to reduces the cost of it for each ethereal card you played, so after you play a certain number, you're done. And this, well, it is a permanent increase, so like you can play the same ethereal card, and this will count each time towards this. I don't know. I think this can be pretty good. I hate that it does nothing without adding cards to your deck, nor without playing the first ethereal card. I hate that about this card. And honestly, just because I'm running out of room in Strike Plus, I'm going to put it at the top of narrow. I'm just going to put it at the top. Oh, well, all right, move to the next line already. Well, I have to readjust this again. Yeah, to the top of narrow you go. All right. Putrefy, another magic reference if I've ever seen one. It's an uncommon skill for 1 energy. It applies 2 weak, it applies 2 vulnerable, and then exhausts. On upgraded, it applies 3 of each. Putrefy's great. It's fun. It's it's funny. I take this on site not because it's good, but because it's perfectly adequate. It's hard to come across weak and vulnerable, and this gives you both. It does exhaust, which is disappointing. But this card for me is pretty well balanced. Its impact is relatively minimal, but its impact lasts over multiple turns. It doesn't deal damage directly, but it does protect you directly. This is right in the wheelhouse of the kinds of cards I like. Does this card overperform? No, and I would love to put it in the overperformer, again, just to save room in my Strike Plus section. But it really is a Strike Plus is the way that I take it. But I think I take it as the best Strike Plus. It does not overperform for me. But its power level is right around there. Ooh, do I take Putrefy over Defile? I might, actually. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Putrefy just offers a unique effect. Weak and vulnerable. The sources are there are not many sources, so having access to both on a single card is just it fills a really good role in the Necrobinder. Next, we have Rattle, an uncommon attack that costs 1, where Asti deals 7 damage and hits an additional time for each other time he attacked this turn. This card's wildly adequate. This is a Strike Plus, but it is narrow. 7 damage on its own is not enough, and you need other cards to build around, but they're there. The pieces are there. I'm not comfortable calling this a Strike Plus. I'm going to put this close to the top of narrow, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to put it below Dredge. I've had this card in my deck, and it worked, but you do need to build around it. Not the most impressive thing. Don't mind giving Asti some more things to do. When it upgrades, it deals 9. All right, Reap. It's a common attack for 3 energy. It retains and deals 27 damage. This might be the most important common for the Necrobinder. 27 damage isn't excessive, but it retains. It lets you time things. It lets you build up and you don't have to wait to draw it. It lets you get your vulnerable, and then when you're ready to spend all your energy, you can use it. Reap is extremely good in the early game and still good in the later part of the game. Having things like Lethality that you can time with this is really effective. Reap is one of my most important cards in my Necrobinder runs. It's one of the cards that I won Ascension 10 with. I'm going to call Reap Pick on Sight and at the top of Pick on Sight. There's a point in the run where it's no longer Pick on Sight, but its impact is felt so much more than all of these. Reap upgrades to dealing an additional 6 damage for 33, which is just enough for me to want that upgrade. If I'm going to spend 3 energy, I need to be as impactful as possible. That was Reap. This is Reeve, a common attack for 1 energy. It deals 9 damage and adds a soul into your draw pile. Not much to say about this card. This is better than a strike. This card is exactly what it looks like. I don't take it very highly. I obviously like Grave Warden a lot more. But it's a good card to get early and play early. Right around Blight Strike for me, although I think I like Blight Strike more. Yeah, I'm going to call this better than No Escape. That's right about where it should be. Next, Right Hand Hands. What a great name. Uncommon attack for 0 energy. Asti deals 4 damage, and when you play a card that costs 2 or more, return this from your hand to your hand from your discard pile. This card's a little bit more impactful than I think it is always. And its power level is right around a strike. But I would honestly prefer to play poke than this card. Because I don't think these strategies are very congruous, the Asti attacking and playing cards that cost 2 or more. For example, there was a card earlier, Flatten. It costs 2, is an Asti attack. But it costs 0 if Asti attacked this turn. So Flatten wants you to play right-hand first, and then you play Flatten, and then you don't get right-hand back because it didn't cost 2 or more. So that synergy's really I'm sad to lose that synergy and makes me struggle with this card. And therefore, I end up putting right-hand hands in the narrow category. Yeah, below Rattle and Fetch, because those just ask for less. And I've liked Rattle. Rattle's a decent payoff, but it is narrow. Scourge. Common skill for 1 energy. Apply 13 Doom. Draw 1 card. On an upgrade, it applies 16 Doom and draws 2 cards. I never play this, but it's a strike plus for sure. It's definitely better than a strike. It's just not going to do any more or any less than that. It's a very, very simple card. So, not much to say about it. We're going to put this in, right around Reeve and Blight Strike again, although I do like those more than this. All right, next is Sculpting Strike. Common attack for 1 energy that deals 8 damage and adds Ethereal to a card in your hand. I love this effect. That's so cool, especially because it just lets you exhaust things, but you can add Ethereal and you don't have to exhaust it, and you can gain Ethereal synergies. This is a really cool card. Adding Ethereal to a card in your hand is good, but it's not super impactful. So again, like most things, this is just a strike plus. Upgraded, it deals 3 additional damage, just like a strike plus. So Sculpting Strike is going to go. Actually, ranking Sculpting Strike's really interesting because it's a strike plus. It's not that great early. It doesn't do anything additional to damage until later. And then at that point, it's not as necessary, but it's still fine. Yeah, and it's right around the same ranking as the rest of these guys. We're going to call Sculpting Strike. I do like it more than Scourge. So I'm going to put it right above Scourge and right below Reeve. It does technically do less damage, but drawing cards with souls and having soul synergies is so good. Okay, next, Severance is an uncommon attack for 2 energy, deal 13 damage, and then add a soul into your draw pile, your hand, and your discard pile. When upgraded, it deals 18 damage, but the souls remain unupgraded, which is actually kind of surprising, although it's fair. Because Severance adding 3 souls is good, and the fact that you get to add the souls to not only just your hand, but also 1 to your draw pile is really good, because that means you'll have a soul sooner than you might expect. Severance is a fine way to add 3 souls into your pool, but clearly there's better ways to do it that don't cost 2, basically. But it's fine. It also deals damage. It's a decent amount of damage for 2 energy. It's not incredible, but adding all those souls is really helpful, especially if you want to use them in the same turn. It's nice that this basically says deal 13, draw 2, and also gain 2 souls. That's another way you can use this card that's really impactful. But its impact really does end up just being another strike plus. Yeah, I have liked this card, especially in the later part of runs, but do I like Severance more than Blight Strike is actually kind of an interesting question. Severance, I'm having trouble rating it because adding 3 souls to your deck is more impactful than a lot of the secondary effects on these strike cards. Like, this is a kind of effect that can really push your deck overboard. especially because you can play the soul in the same turn by adding it to your hands. Yeah, I'm going to put it right below Debilitate. That's tough. That's an interesting thing, but Severance is fine. Deals 13 damage. It's a good amount of damage, and souls are just so good right now. So maybe I'll do some more thinking about that, but that feels about right. Next is Shroud, an uncommon power for 1 energy. Whenever you apply Doom, gain 2 block. Well, this card definitely doesn't overperform, but it is a power that blocks, and I think that alone is really important. However, the Doom effects this is good with, from what I recall, are pretty limited. So there's the Doom effects that apply Doom to yourself. That does give you block. There's the power that applies Doom every turn. But then there's a rare that applies Doom, I think it's every time you play a card. Let's just look it up quick. Yeah, here it is. Whenever you play a card this turn, apply 3 Doom. I mean, Oblivion, we'll get to it, but that's a really impactful card. And coupled with this power is a great engine to build your deck around. Without that, Shroud does basically nothing. Even with Death's Door, you're still only gaining 2 or 3 block a turn, which is very minimal. It's worse than Metallicize. It's not bad. It's just so unimpactful that I'm going to call Shroud definitely not playing with your food. It's definitely an important piece in some puzzles, but it's definitely narrow. I'm actually going to break up the Asti attacks a little bit, because Rattle is a good thing to build around, just like Shroud is, and it's a little bit easier, I think. And the other 2 Asti attacks I just find so much less impactful that I'm going to put Shroud above those. Next is Sic Em. Uncommon attack for 1 energy. Asti deals 5 damage, and whenever Asti hits an enemy that turn, you summon 2. Let me start by ranking this card. I've tried Sic Em a couple of times, and it doesn't work. Why not? What's the problem? So this works with Flatten, where you can play this and then Flatten costs 0, and then you summon 2. But this does less damage than a strike. So you're playing this for the summon effect. And just to get summon 2, you need a combination of cards. And you can get Asti attacks that recur. So this is definitely a piece of an engine. But without the engine, this card is useless. It doesn't gain summon 2 until you play a follow-up attack. And until then, you're playing a card worse than Strike. I've tried this card multiple times, and I just don't find that it works. The pieces don't come together well enough to make this worth it. The upgrade does make it summon 3, but only dealing 6 damage, yeah. I understand, summon's very powerful. You don't want to push this card too much, but that doesn't explain all the other cards. So Sic Em's not the place to be. I don't recommend it. There is a perfect deck that it'll fit in, and it'll be great, but I don't think you need to work that hard. Sleight of Flesh, an uncommon power that costs 2, and it says whenever you apply a debuff to an enemy, they take 9 damage. When you upgrade it, it deals 13 damage. This card's pretty good, and it's pretty fun. I like these cards that are clearly built to work with certain strategies, like this is synergy with Doom, but it also triggers when you do other fun things, like weak and vulnerable, or hang, I guess, or even debilitate. You can have no weak or vulnerable effects, and debilitate will just deal an extra 9 damage, and 9 damage is a lot. That is a big number to add to these effects. So it does cost 2, and upgrading it makes it still cost 2. I think it's worth getting in there. This is a card that incentivizes you to take these other cards that do give you energy, finally. Like, because you don't even need that with Reap. That's how good Reap is. But this card, you really want to play an extra energy source just to make it a little bit easier. But there's a lot of energy sources, including from the Ancients, and those are the best ones to get instead of playing another mediocre card. But Sleight of Flesh dealing 9 and then 13 damage is really a lot. It's really a lot. Unfortunately, I don't think you can jam this into any deck. So this ends up being... I'm going to put this at the top of narrow. Like, it's so close, but it just needs enough build around. But you have it, and then it does do a lot of damage. So, really cool card. This is a card that I really like the design of. Snap. A common attack for 1 energy. Asti. There he is again. Deals 7 damage. And then add Retain to a card in your hand. I've found that effect is really nice. It's really nice to be able to add Retain to a card in my hand. Retain is really present in Slay the Spire 2, and it's pretty good. And putting it on this card is fine. I never want Retain so badly that I am excited to take a 7 damage attack card. But this card's fine. I think it's just on the lower end of strike cards, and maybe it's narrow, but it isn't narrow. This you can put into any deck and it's going to be perfectly fine. So to reflect that, we're going to put this at the bottom of Strike Plus. Just above High 5 because I have played this card before. Okay, next is So. A common attack for 1 energy that retains and deals 8 damage to all enemies. I'm just going to say it. This card is Reap except for AoE. Now it's 8 damage, which is a very small number, and it does not work as well with things like Vulnerable because you can only do it to the one target. It does work with Lethality, which is nice, and this also costs 1 energy, which is really helps. This is not as good as Reap. Reap you can build your deck around. So is fine. So is sort of a poor man's Reap if you really need area of effect damage, and if you have another area of effect, this is replaceable. So actually, I don't put this in pick on site, but I will say I've found this card to overperform. I think that's fair. Yeah, right above Enfeebling Touch. When upgraded, it deals 11 damage. You know, it's right in that strike territory, but being able to retain is so good. Spur. Spur is a funny card. This is an uncommon skill for 1 energy. It retains, summons 3, and heals Asti for 5. So this is really cool, actually, because it's only summon 3, but it's kind of summon 8, and that's a lot. And it retains. It's really hard not to take this card. Based on how it looks, I've actually found that this card kind of underperforms my expectations, but my expectations are that this card is really good, and it's not. It's just fine. Sometimes it's just summon 3. Upgraded, it's summon 5 and heals for 7. Which is a lot. But sometimes Asti's just at max hit points, so it's just summon 3. But it retains. It gets out of your deck. I'm not going to put this card... It probably is just going to end up in like the Strike Plus territory. But I don't know that that's true. No, you know what? I'm going to put it in the narrow territory. Just as far as power level. It is a small amount of summon. It's a pretty easy card to take. But what really makes it narrow is that you really want to play it when Asti's taking damage, and sometimes that's just not the case. But being able to retain makes it so easy. It's a really easy card to put in any deck. So this is a versatile, narrow card. I'm going to put it just right above Dredge. That feels good for my experience with the card. All right, Veil Piercer, very cool. Uncommon attack for 1 energy, deals 10 damage, and the next ethereal card you play costs 0. When it upgrades, deals 13 damage. This card's pretty impactful. One of the fun things you can do with Necrobinder is play Veil Piercer with Sculpting Strike, and then you can just choose which card costs 0. That's really fun to do. This is a fun card. It's right around good strike territory for sure. It's not broken. It overperforms a little bit, but not quite so much that I'm going to put it in the overperformer tier, because I do like Defile more than it. So we're going to put Veil Piercer. I'm just thinking, I do think I like Defile more. I'm just wondering if I like Deathbringer more. Yeah, I think maybe I just need to move Deathbringer up is all. Yeah, I ranked Flatten too high. So let me start by moving Flatten down. I'm going to move Flatten to just above Sculpting Strike. With Flatten just above Sculpting Strike, I'm just going to move Veil Piercer right above Cleanse. And I think that's pretty good. It does require the support of adding ethereal cards to your deck, but the damage is a good amount of damage. I would take Deathbringer over it usually, but Veil Piercer has way better synergy. So actually this feels about right. Yeah, that's good. All right. Just in time for our last card to rank. Wisp. It's a common skill for 0 energy where you gain 1 energy. And then this exhausts. But when you upgrade it, this retains. Retain, again, is very nice. And once you retain this card, it's out of your deck. You play it, and it exhausts. So you never need to worry about drawing this card again. And it's nice to have this retain because it really lets you set up your expensive cards. That's really what this does effectively. Without retain, it's a lot tougher to play this card, and that's mostly what I'm ranking these cards on. So without retain, even with retain, this card's just not necessary. But I can't say I'm too disappointed with it. But it still might end up in the playing with your foods here because it really isn't necessary and its effect is so replaceable. Upgraded would be much better. But without the upgrade, I don't think this is the right energy gain effect you're looking for. Yeah, it makes sense. It's right around where Borrowed Time is, but Borrowed Time has the added benefit of having Doom synergies, which doesn't make it much better, but it is a tiny bit. Yeah, I'm going to put Wisp right at the bottom of Narrow in between Pagestorm and Danse Macabre. And that's it. And that is the Necrobinder rankings. What's really interesting about these rankings is that I think these rankings are going to become irrelevant. Necrobinder needs a lot of work. In general, I believe the balance for Slay the Spire 2, most of it is necessary for the enemies, how the acts play out, and even the events. Like, I think in general, the balance problems, or where I want the balance to change, isn't so much in the card pools of the characters, but more so in the structure of the game, the acts, and the obstacles. However, Necrobinder clearly has some work that needs to be done on it. I wonder if they're going to change souls to only draw 1 card instead of 2. That's a change I could very easily imagine. But the starting deck definitely too powerful as it stands. Bodyguard and Unleash are so good. Just get rid of strikes and defends as much as you want. Protector is a good upgrade, but you don't even need it. It's just so effective as it is. But that's it. I'm excited. I'm so excited for the next balance change. It's probably going to be a bit before we see that. And when we do, I expect Necrobinder to see quite a bit of changes. I would not be surprised if basically every card gets turned on its head. I would not be surprised. I think Reap is an interesting card to have as effective as it is because It's really important, but I also don't think this card's broken. It costs 3 energy. Because it retains, it's easy to time. This has been such a great card to get early. And because it's a common, you'll see it early. So I end up often wanting this card. But that's just how it is for now. We'll see how Necrobinder looks in the future. And next on my list, I'm going to try and finish the Ironclad. Well, okay, next on my list is the Necrobinder rares, which will be an interesting conversation because that's definitely where a lot of Necrobinder's power is. But we'll talk about that in the next video.